Imagine standing at your sister's lavish wedding, uninvited as your family mocks you, calling you a failure. I'm Serena, the outcast they discarded for their golden child, Gwen. They chose wealth and status over me, but I clawed my way up from nothing. Now their empire's crumbling, and my success is their ruin. This is my story, a tale of betrayal, resilience, and revenge, where the tables turn and the truth cuts deeper than they ever imagined. Watch it unfold. The air smelled of lilies and champagne, a suffocating blend of extravagance that clung to Gwen's wedding like a second skin. The venue glittered under chandeliers, each crystal catching the light and throwing it back into the faces of the guests, hundreds of them, all dressed in their finest, their laughter loud and hollow. I stood at the edge of the ballroom, my black dress simple but sharp, a quiet rebellion against the pastel sea of Gwen's chosen aesthetic. I hadn't planned to come. I hadn't even been invited. But when the courier dropped that cream-colored envelope at my doorstep 3 weeks ago, with its looping gold script and my name, Serena Langley, scrawled across it, I knew I couldn't stay away. Not because I wanted to celebrate my little sister's big day, but because I needed to see their faces when they realized I wasn't the broken girl they'd left behind. I spotted them immediately. Mother, her platinum hair swept into an elegant updo, her lips painted a vicious red. Father, broad-shouldered and stern, his tuxedo straining against years of excess. And Gwen, the golden child, radiant in her lace gown, her smile a perfect mask. They hadn't changed. Not really. The same arrogance pulsed through them, the same certainty that the world bent to their will. They didn't see me at first, and I preferred it that way. I wanted to watch them bask in their triumph a little longer before I stepped into the light. "Serena?" The voice came from behind me, sharp and disbelieving. I turned to find Mother staring at me, her eyes narrowing as if I were a stain on her pristine evening. "What are you doing here?" "I was invited," I said, keeping my tone even, though my heart thudded against my ribs. I held up the invitation, letting the gold embossing catch the light. Her lips twitched, but she didn't argue. She couldn't. Not yet. Father joined her, his gaze raking over me with the same disdain I'd known since childhood. "You look, well," he said, though the word sounded like an insult. "Still scraping by, I assume?" "Something like that," I replied, my voice cool. I could feel Gwen's eyes on me now, her curiosity pulling her away from her groom, a bland, handsome man with a trust fund and no spine. She floated over, her train trailing behind her like a peacock's feathers. "Serena," she said, her voice syrupy with false warmth. "I didn't think you'd show up. I mean, it's not really your scene, is it? All this success." The jab landed exactly where she intended, but I didn't flinch. I'd spent years building armor against their words. "Congratulations, Gwen," I said instead, nodding toward her groom. "He seems nice." Her smile tightened. "He's more than nice. He's the heir to St. Augustine's Hospital. You wouldn't understand what that means." "Oh, I think I do," I said softly, and something in my tone made her pause. But before she could press, Mother cut in. "Let's not waste time on pleasantries," she snapped. "Serena, if you're here to beg for a handout, you're too late. We've put everything into Gwen's future. You made your choices." I let the words hang there, heavy and cruel just as they'd always been. I could have told them right then about the company I'd built from nothing, the millions in my bank account, the life I'd carved out despite them. But I didn't, not yet. I wanted them to dig their own graves first. I was 10 when I realized I'd never be enough for them. Gwen was 6, all curls and dimples, and she'd just won her first piano recital. Mother clapped so hard her palms turned red, and Father hoisted Gwen onto his shoulders, parading her around the room like a trophy. I'd come second in my spelling bee that same day, but when I showed them my certificate, Mother barely glanced at it. "Second isn't first, Serena," she'd said, her voice clipped. "Try harder." I did try. I studied until my eyes burned. worked odd jobs to buy my own books when they refused to pay for anything beyond the basics. But it was never enough. Gwen was the star, beautiful, charming, effortlessly perfect. By high school, they'd stopped pretending I mattered. When I asked for college tuition, Father laughed. "We're not wasting money on you," he'd said. "Gwen's the one with potential." So I left. At 18, I packed a duffel bag and walked out of their marble mansion, their voices echoing behind me. "You'll come crawling back, Serena. You're nothing without us." I didn't look back. I worked nights at a diner, slept on friends' couches, and clawed my way through community college. Every rejection, every sneer from them fueled me. I started a small tech company, Langley Solutions, fixing software bugs for local businesses. It grew, slowly at first, then all at once. By 25, I'd signed my first $1 million contract. By 30, I was a name they'd never heard because they'd never bothered to look. The reception was in full swing when the whispers started. I'd slipped away to the bar, sipping a glass of water, when I overheard it. Langley Solutions. Didn't they just acquire MedTech Innovations? The name rippled through the crowd, and I felt the shift. Eyes darted toward me, curious, then stunned. Gwen's groom, Elliot, I'd learned, approached me, his brow furrowed. "You're Serena Langley?" he asked, his voice low. "The Serena Langley?" I nodded, setting my glass down. "That's me." His face paled. "My father's been trying to get a meeting with you for months. Your company's revolutionizing hospital software. We're in talks to integrate your systems at St. Augustine's." Before I could respond, Gwen swooped in, her laugh brittle. "Elliot, don't be ridiculous. Serena doesn't know anything about hospitals. She's my boss, in a way." Elliot cut in, and the silence that followed was deafening. Gwen's mouth hung open, her perfect facade cracking. Mother and father pushed through the crowd, their expressions a mix of confusion and rage. "What's this nonsense?" Father barked. "Serena, what lies are you spreading?" "No lies," I said, stepping forward. "Just facts. Langley Solutions is worth more than your entire estate ever was. And speaking of that estate..." I paused, letting the moment stretch. "I hear it's up for auction next month. Bad investments, Father?" His face turned gray. Mother clutched his arm, her nails digging into his sleeve. "You're bluffing," she hissed. "You've always been jealous of Gwen. This is pathetic." "Jealous?" I laughed, a sound that felt foreign after so long. "Gwen, tell them about your degree, the one from Yale you love to flaunt." Gwen froze. "What are you talking about?" "I had a friend look into it," I said, my voice steady. "No record of you at Yale. You flunked out of community college and paid someone to fake your credentials. How long did you think that would hold up?" The crowd gasped, murmurs swelling into a roar. Elliot stared at Gwen, horrified as her lies unraveled. Mother shrieked, lunging at me, but Father held her back, his own shame silencing him. I didn't stay to watch the fallout. I turned and walked out, the sound of their world collapsing fading behind me. The night air hit me like a slap as I stepped out of the ballroom, the muffled chaos of Gwen's wedding fading into a dull hum. My heels clicked against the cobblestone path, each step a deliberate choice to leave them behind again. I'd done it once before, at 18, with nothing but a duffel bag and a bruised heart. This time, I carried a different weight, the satisfaction of knowing they couldn't touch me anymore, not unless I let them. I didn't get far before I heard Father's voice, rough and desperate, cutting through the quiet. "Serena, stop!" I turned, reluctantly, to see him storming toward me, Mother trailing behind with her mascara-streaked face, and Gwen, her gown bunched in her fists, her eyes wild. They looked like a pack of wolves who'd just realized the prey they'd hunted was the one holding the gun. "What do you want?" I asked, crossing my arms. The cool March breeze tugged at my dress, but I stood firm. "You don't get to walk away after that. That stunt." Father spat, his face red with fury. "You think you can humiliate us and just leave?" "Humiliate you?" I raised an eyebrow. "I didn't make Gwen lie about her degree. I didn't sink your fortune into bad stocks. You did that all on your own. Mother let out a choked sob, clutching her pearls as if they could save her. You're lying. You've always been a liar, Serena. You're jealous, bitter, because Gwen got everything you couldn't. I stared at her, the woman who'd once told me I'd never amount to anything, and felt a flicker of pity. Not for her pain, but for how small she'd become. Keep telling yourself that, I said. Maybe it'll make the foreclosure notice sting less. Gwen stepped forward, her voice trembling with rage. You think you're better than us? You're nothing, Serena. You've always been nothing. This company of yours, it's a fluke, a lucky break. You'll crash and burn, and we'll be there to watch. Her words echoed the ones they'd thrown at me years ago, and for a moment I was 16 again, standing in the kitchen of that cold, sprawling house, begging for their approval. It was the summer before my senior year. Gwen had just gotten a new car, a shiny red convertible for her 16th birthday, even though she'd failed half her classes. I'd spent the summer waitressing, saving every penny for a laptop I needed for school. I'd finally scraped together enough, $300 in crumpled bills, and I was proud. Stupidly, I thought they'd be proud too. I found them in the dining room, laughing over Gwen's latest cheerleading trophy. I bought this, I said, holding up the beat-up Dell I'd found at a pawn shop, for college applications. Father didn't even look up from his wine. Good for you, he muttered. Mother waved a hand, dismissive. Don't expect us to pay for anything else. Gwen's tuition is the priority. She's not even going to college yet, I said, my voice cracking. She's failing everything. Gwen smirked, twirling a curl around her finger. At least I'm not a loser who smells like grease. That was the moment I snapped. I didn't yell or cry. I just turned and walked upstairs, packed my things, and left. They didn't stop me. They didn't even notice I was gone until days later, when Mother called to ask why I hadn't cleaned the kitchen. By then, I was crashing on my friend Mia's couch, working doubles at the diner, and promising myself I'd never need them again. Gwen's taunt pulled me back to the wedding, and I smiled a slow, deliberate curve of my lips that made her falter. A fluke? I said. Langley Solutions has contracts with half the hospitals on the East Coast. We're valued at $50 million. What's your net worth now, Gwen? Oh, wait, Elliot's family might not be so generous once they realize you're a fraud. Her face crumpled, and she lunged at me, but Elliot grabbed her arm, his expression dark. Is it true? He demanded. Did you fake your degree? Gwen stammered, her charm dissolving into panic. I didn't. Serena's lying. She's not, I said, pulling my phone from my clutch. I opened an email from my PI, the one I'd hired on a hunch last month when I'd heard Gwen bragging about Yale on social media. Here's the proof. No record of you at Yale. A forged transcript from a guy in Jersey who got busted last year. It's all there. Elliot snatched the phone, scrolling through the evidence, his jaw tightening with every line. The crowd had followed us outside now, drawn by the drama, their whispers a growing storm. Mother sank to her knees, wailing, while Father's hands balled into fists. You spiteful little, he started, but I cut him off. Don't, I said, my voice steel. You don't get to play the victim, not after you threw me away like trash. You bet everything on Gwen, and now look at her. Look at you. Father's shoulders slumped, the fight draining out of him. He'd always been a bully, but he was nothing without his money, and that was gone now. I'd heard the rumors, weeks ago, failed investments, a leveraged estate, creditors circling like vultures. The auction was set for April. They'd lose the house, the cars, the status they'd worshipped. And Gwen? Her marriage was crumbling before the cake was even cut. Elliot handed my phone back, his voice cold. We need to talk, Gwen. Alone. He walked off, leaving her stranded, her sobs echoing in the night. Mother clung to Father, muttering about lawsuits, but I knew they had nothing left to fight with. I turned to go, but Gwen's voice stopped me one last time. You think you've won? She croaked. You're still alone, Serena. You'll always be alone. I looked back at her, at the sister who'd once been my shadow, and felt nothing. I'm not alone, I said. I have a life I built, friends who stayed, a husband who sees me. You've got a lie that's falling apart. Her eyes widened. Husband? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I walked away, leaving them in the wreckage of their own making. The headlights of Daniel's car cut through the darkness as he pulled up to the curb, his familiar silhouette a quiet anchor in the storm I'd just walked away from. I slid into the passenger seat, the leather cool against my skin, and let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. He didn't say anything at first, just reached over and squeezed my hand, his thumb brushing my knuckles in that steady, grounding way of his. It was enough. You okay? He asked finally, his voice low and warm. I nodded, leaning back against the headrest. Better than I thought I'd be. He glanced toward the venue, where the faint sounds of Gwen's unraveling still lingered. They don't deserve you, Serena. Never did. I know, I said, and for the first time I truly believed it. We drove in silence for a while, the city lights blurring past, until I felt the weight of the night start to lift. Daniel wasn't just my husband, he was my partner. The one who'd seen me when I was still a nobody with a laptop and a dream. We'd met 3 years ago, when Langley Solutions pitched to St. Augustine's Hospital. I'd walked into that boardroom, nerves buzzing, expecting another rejection. Instead, Daniel, then the COO, had listened, asked sharp questions, and signed on the spot. Later, over coffee, he'd admitted he'd been more impressed by my fire than my pitch. 6 months of late-night meetings turned into dinners, then a quiet wedding on a cliffside last fall. No fanfare, no guest list, just us. The opposite of Gwen's spectacle. The next few weeks were a slow-motion car crash for the Langleys, and I watched it unfold from a distance, my phone buzzing with updates I didn't ask for. Gwen's marriage imploded before the honeymoon. Elliot's family, mortified by the scandal, issued a statement disavowing her, and the divorce papers hit the press the same day Langley Solutions announced a $10 million expansion. Timing, it turned out, was everything. The estate auction came on April 5th, a gray, rainy day that matched the mood splashed across the tabloids. I didn't go. I didn't need to. But Mia sent me photos. Mother in a threadbare coat, clutching a single suitcase. Father, hollow-eyed, signing over the keys to a house that had once been his kingdom. The headline read, "From riches to ruin, the Langley legacy collapses." Gwen wasn't there. Word was she'd fled to some friend's condo, dodging reporters and creditors alike. They tried to call me, of course. First Father, his voice gruff with forced remorse. "Serena, we're family. Help us out, just this once." Then Mother, sobbing through a voicemail. "You owe us this. We raised you." I deleted both without replying. Owe them? They'd given me nothing but scars and a reason to fight. But the real blow came a week later, when Gwen showed up at my office unannounced. I was in a meeting, finalizing a deal with a West Coast hospital chain, when my assistant buzzed me. "There's a woman here, says she's your sister. She's upset." I sighed, excusing myself, and found Gwen in the lobby, her designer dress wrinkled, her hair a mess. She looked like a ghost of the girl who'd mocked me at her wedding. "Serena," she started, her voice cracking. "I need your help. Elliot's cut me off. I've got nothing left." I leaned against the reception desk, arms crossed. "What do you want me to do about it?" "Money," she said, shameless. "A job. Anything. You're loaded now, share it." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that made her flinch. "You think I'd give you a dime after everything? You spent your life stepping on me, Gwen. You don't get to climb back up using my ladder." Her eyes flashed with the old venom. "You're heartless. You always were." "No," I said, stepping closer, my voice low and steady. "I just stopped letting you define me. You made your choices, live with them." She stared at me, tears spilling over, then turned and stumbled out, the glass doors swinging shut behind her. That was the last time I saw her. The end came quietly, a month later, when Father showed up at my house. Daniel was at the hospital, and I was alone, sipping tea on the porch when his beat-up sedan rolled into the driveway. He looked older than I'd ever seen him, stooped, unshaven, a man stripped of his armor. "Serena," he said, climbing the steps. "Can we talk?" I didn't invite him in, but I nodded, setting my mug down. "Say what you need to." He took a shaky breath, his hands trembling. "We're broke. Your mother's sick cancer, they think. Gwen's gone off the rails. I know we hurt you, and I'm sorry. I'm begging you, help us. You're all we've got left." I studied him, the man who'd once towered over me, and felt a strange calm settle in. "You're sorry now because you need me," I said. "Not because you regret what you did. You threw me away, Dad. You bet on Gwen and lost. I built this life without you. Why should I tear it down to save yours?" His face crumpled, but he didn't argue. Maybe he knew I was right. "We're family," he whispered, one last plea. "Family doesn't abandon each other," I said. "I found mine elsewhere. Go home, Dad. Fix what you can." He stood there for a long moment, then shuffled back to his car, the engine sputtering as he drove away. I watched until the taillights disappeared, then went inside and locked the door. That summer, Langley Solutions broke ground on a new headquarters, a sleek building with my name on it, not theirs. Daniel and I celebrated with a quiet dinner, just the two of us, toasting to a future we'd made together. I heard later that Mother was in a public hospital, Father working odd jobs, Gwen drifting somewhere in the wreckage of her lies. They'd faded into the background noise of a life I no longer lived. I stood on our balcony one evening, the city sprawling below, and felt the peace I'd fought so hard for. No anger, no guilt, just the weight of my own worth, finally mine to carry. They'd lost everything because they'd valued the wrong things, status, appearances, a daughter who'd never had to earn it. I'd won because I'd chosen myself, and that, I realized, was enough.